Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to Knife AQ number 8. It's the series where I get to answer all of your knife questions, whether they're big or small. Got some cool stuff this week, including some construction working folders, as well as some stuff about my personal EDCs. So let's do it. All right, our first question today comes from Artemio Quintero. He says, question, I would like a knife that's rough and tumble, that can be used heavily one hand open and closed, carpenter, and currently carry a mini grip with a thumb hole, but sometimes I use my knife for opening cement bags and grit gets in the bar lock. I also do light prying, typically opening paint can type lids. Also would like a little bit longer blade, like it to hold a good edge. A lot of requirements here, but I love it. It says, I'm often cutting 6mm plastic and craft paper, and that's a struggle without a sharp knife. Budget is $50 to $100, but if it goes over by a bit, that's okay, because he wants quality. Also, maybe a fixed blade recommendation. Yes, absolutely. So at that type of price, well, first let's talk about like the grit that you're experiencing. I totally get that. So for me, the type of folder I'd be looking for is a frame lock, because with something like a liner lock, of course, grit can get in between the liner and the scale material, which could prevent you from unlocking it. But a frame lock with a mostly open-backed construction is going to be easier to clean out of dust and debris. And I'd also go with something, rather than having bearings in it, go with something simpler that has washers in it instead. Again, for that dust issue. But actually, considering that, your budget's actually in a pretty good spot, because once you start getting over $100, most of the knives we'd be looking at would start to have bearings instead of those washers. So we're going to stick with those. My first instinct was actually the Boker Plus F 3.5. This isn't that exact model, but this one is the same shape. Really stout folder, really thick blade. That version has D2 steel, which with the toothy edge is going to work great on the plastic and that sort of thing. It's got that frame lock, it's got washers in the pivot, so you're not going to have to worry as much about dust there. And just a little bit of a backspacer here. It's still mostly open backed. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought this type of blade shape, this clip point, especially with as much belly as it's got, probably want something with more of a Wharncliffe or a sheep's foot type of blade. And in fact, your mini Griptilian has that as well. So it's a, you know what I'm talking about. So first recommendation is the large Pilar from CRKT. These are really cheap actually, or inexpensive I should say. They're built pretty well. Has all those same characteristics, just with that type of sheep's foot blade there. Now there are D2 versions of this. Those come in at $45, so you can still get a good performing steel for your intended uses. And it's still got that frame lock, Teflon washers, open-backed construction with a small backspacer there, so easy to keep clean. And you've got that type of sheep's foot shape that you're going to be able to do scoring with, whether you're working on a surface, cutting through some material like that. Still enough of a point you can open up your bags and that sort of thing. Not going to give you too much more blade length than your Griptilian though, even though this steel would be a good selection. So I've got another suggestion here as well, longer one. This is the K-Bar Garage Flipper. This is a 3 3/8 inch long blade, again with a nice, they call it Wharncliffe, so it shows up as Wharncliffe on our site, but it's a little bit more of a sheep's foot profile. Again, frame lock, open backed construction, Teflon washers. So it's got everything you're going to need in a dusty, gritty environment with a little bit more blade length. Hollow grind, stonewash finish on here. AUS 8 stainless steel, so it's not going to hold an edge as long as D2 or as long as the steel in your mini Griptilian. Unless you're talking a real old one with 440C way back in the day. That'll still probably be a skosh better in edge retention than this. But you're not going to have to worry about beating this thing up. It's gonna lock up for you and unlock for you when you want it to very easily. A little bit more pricey. We're about $74 for this knife, but it's gonna work. Yeah, it's gonna work really well. G10 on the front, good enough traction there, ready to work for sure. Now, if we're gonna bust your budget completely, like I said, pretty much anything over $100 that I was looking at with frame locks, with this type of blade shape, they all come with bearings, except for one. And it is a lot more expensive. This is a $600 knife, the Hinder XM24 Wharncliffe, or not Wharncliffe, they call this a sheep's foot, which is appropriate because it is a sheep's foot blade. These actually do come with bearings out of the box, but this is the tri-way pivot is what they call it. So It's going to flip well, but you can swap those out for either Teflon or I want to say brass washers, which are included in the package, and that would definitely have everything you need for a hard-working construction folder if money were no object. Now, as for a fixed blade recommendation, I'm going to look to kind of Sweden as an example, because as I hear it, Moras are pretty much cover any construction site over there because they're going to be very durable, they're going to last, and you're not going to have to worry about beating them up at all. So probably why don't you check out the Mora Robust. These are $20 knives. They've got a nice handle, bit of a finger guard there. You don't get a Wharncliffe or a sheep's foot type of shape, but you get a rugged carbon steel blade, 1/8 of an inch thick on this one, so it's a little bit thicker than some of their other knives, and it's just gonna work really well. Simple plastic sheath. It's gonna be right at home in a work environment. All right, the one thing I didn't address is you talked about prying paint can lids with your knife, and I cringe every time I read that. So might I suggest something like a Griffin pocket tool to throw that in your belt or in your pocket as an alternative for prying those cans open. I've got the regular and the XL size here both. The regulars are just under 20 bucks and the XLs are right at 30 right now. But you got a pry bar tip, you've got various hex wrenches that you can use to make turns, bottle opener, because it's a multi-tool after all. And you can even use this section right here. They call this a scoring tool, which you could probably find some really good uses for that on your job site. All right, next question is from Dominic Theophan. He says, hey David, could you speak about the applications of a non-karambit Hawkbill blade design? How would one go about sharpening a Hawkbill? Are there any downsides to the shape beyond that? I like the Kershaw Launch 10. I've got one of those right here because the arch is a little more subtle, and the Bestech Ivy from a few weeks ago really sparked my interest in them. Yeah, absolutely. I don't have an Ivy here in front of me, but I do have that Launch 10. It's a bit of a shorter blade. And yeah, for general purpose utility, there are some good applications to this type of shape. One of the things this type of shape shares with something like a Wharncliffe or a sheep's foot, with that tip, even ones that have a little bit of belly, when you're cutting through long slices through cardboard or stuff like that, the tip can be less likely to slip out of a cut. That's even more so with this type of blade shape. So any kind of aggressive cutting is going to be served very well by this type of shape. Breaking down cardboard, opening packages certainly, because you've got a really nice tip. And it's when you're cutting through maybe like a clam pack or something like that, it's less likely to slip out, less likely to wiggle around. It's just going to be hooked in. So in a way, it's kind of safer in that regard. Also, maybe not so much with smaller ones, although it would work with smaller cordage. Things like rope, any kind of fibrous materials, as you're drawing the blade back, again, you're going to get more cutting action on that type of thing when you're going that way. Apart from that, of course, stuff like zip ties or even heavier stuff like pallet straps or anything holding big boxes closed. Real easy to get under there and pull back. A lot easier to effectively cut through those things than something with a lot of belly. That certainly makes sense when you envision that and hold these two up next to each other. Even some rescue applications. It could be, you do have to watch the tip, but seat belts, nylon, stuff like that. So there are uses for it. It definitely is a bit more specialized though. Now, as far as sharpening, you're going to want to go with something that has a curved surface. That's what's going to make things easiest for you. Whether it's a standalone stone or something like the Spyderco Gauntlet, which can be had with fine stones, as well as these cubic boron nitride, which is kind of like diamond in that it's a more aggressive removal of the material. But you'll be able to use the curve of that stone to actually hug the inside of that aggressive recurve on a Hawkbill shape. And of course, the gentler the recurve, the easier it's going to be. But you can, like I said, use these freehand for that sort of thing. It works very well. And then when you're done with that, you can always strop it using like the corner of a hard strop rather than just trying to go flat. You can still get some use out of that if you need. But for the folks of you who haven't checked out this Launch 10 before, the whole Launch series is great. You've got your 154 cm steel, American-made construction, aluminum handles, fantastic action, and this one right here comes in just under $100. All right, next question comes from Scoob42. He says, can you recommend the best Wharncliffe under 3 inches, unassisted, and under $100? That immediately makes me think of the Gerber Fastball. It's a Wharncliffe, it's unassisted, it's right at the $100 mark. It's made in the USA too. And these were really, kind of really signaled, I think, a turnaround for Gerber, in that they are doing a little bit more to cater to the enthusiasts out there than they have been maybe in the past several years. It's just a really good knife. Like I said, S30V steel, just under 3 inches, stone-washed finish. You've also got aluminum handles here. You can either get it in a sage green or this standard gray. You can also get a black version with a black stone-washed blade. That creeps just above the $100 mark. You've also got a liner lock to keep things closed. Pocket clip reversible. It's not deep carry, but what really, or the thing that really makes a statement about this knife is the action itself. Ball bearings, nice and crisp detent. It flips open really well. Fantastic utility shape for EDC. All right, next question is from Philosophus Bellator. He says, a question for your next FAQ. I have a relative graduating from the police academy soon, and I want to get him a quality folding knife as a present. It should have a belt cutter and glass breaker built in, realistically tactical. Sure. Immediately springing to mind the Benchmade Triage series. And this one in particular is one of the thin blue line versions. So coming from the police academy, this seems to me to be the most appropriate one. You've got just that little spit of blue on one side there. Really nice thematic touch. These are, however, discontinued, but we may have a few left when this video goes up, so I'd recommend this one first. But there are other non-thin blue line versions in the Triage series. But the series has got pretty much everything you want. This particular one's about $212. There are some blunt tip versions that come in about $180 something, but that might not be what you want for an officer. They're more the first responder variants. But you got an S30V blade here, about 3.5 inches or 3.4 thereabouts. S30V steel, so you got good edge retention. Just a solid shape right here. Handles are G10. You got your axis lock in there. This particular one needs a little bit of breaking in, but they can flick the blade open and close real easily. And of course, you've got ambidextrous usability. Even when wearing gloves, like duty gloves, you should be able to get to this lock bar no problem. Then there at the back, you've got your glass breaker and of course, a pop-out seatbelt cutter right there as well. Yeah, everything you want. Decently priced, made in the USA, and especially if you can grab one of these versions, perfect for your police academy graduate. But you can of course check out those other Triage models if these are gone. We also did a video fairly recently on rescue folders. Some of those may fit what you need. Maybe the Trident AT from SOG would be a good option. And if you can if you decide you don't care so much about the strap cutter, Microtech SOCOM would be another great choice. All right, next question from Man in Kabuki Mask. He says, hey DCA, I am looking for an EDC fixed blade. Good man. He says, I definitely want scout carry and preferably micarta handles. My budget is around 75 bucks. Thanks for suggestions. Cool. I'm all about EDC fixed blades, even though it's funny, we're gonna get to some of my EDC stuff here in a moment. I don't have one of my fixed blades here, but that's okay. I'm all about it. I'm very supportive. So scout carry, for the folks out there that don't know, is typically behind at the small of your back. So if you're right-handed, you would reach that way and it would be mounted horizontally there. So I didn't find anything that exactly fit what you wanted with micarta and scout carry under 75. So I got a few things that creep just over. So you said around 75. So the first option, the ESEE Azula 2. Is a great knife. Made in America, 1095 steel, coated so you're not gonna have to worry as much about corrosion or rust, since if you are carrying it in the small of your back, it might be underneath a shirt, might be something you have to worry about, so the coating is gonna help you there. And of course, micarta handles built right in. A little bit longer than the standard Azula. I can get all 4 of my fingers on it, even though I have slightly larger than average hands. Got a good amount of grip there. So it comes with a plastic sheath, as well as a clip plate, which you can mount in either a vertical orientation or horizontal. So you'll be able to get what you need out of this knife right out of the box. It comes in at 79 bucks. So just a few dollars over your $75 rough suggestion. Now, if you want something a little bit more secure than just the clip that comes with that knife, you can get a standard large tech lock that will fit on this as well. Those run about 15 bucks. But again, you don't have to get that to get what you need. Another option that will require you to buy either a large or a small tech lock, or you can just use some paracord, I'll get to that in a second, is the Boker Plus Spark, which is a $67 knife, and a good amount of mojo on this design. Micarta handles, a little bit lengthier than the Azula, a bit of a beefier blade as well, although they use 440C stainless here rather than the 1095 carbon. So that stainless might be an advantage to you, or you can go with the greater toughness of that SE. You get a little bit more length out of this knife as well. The SE has a bit over 2.5 inches of sharpened edge, whereas the blade length on this guy is a bit over 3 inches, so you can kind of see how they compare right there. But we've got a Kydex sheath here, and as I said, large or small tech locks will fit those. But once you throw that in on top of the purchase price, you're between 80 and 85 bucks, depending on which tech lock you get. So again, ballpark. But the other thing you could do, you can actually use paracord or something else to create your own belt loops on here, in which case it would be ready to go exactly how it is. Now, I also did try opening it up and looking at some G10 models as well. And there's some good EDC fixed blades in G10 under your price range, but the sheaths on them didn't quite make them conducive to scout carry. So that was kind of the thing that complicated the search just a little bit. But I love these questions where I find just the right knife. It's kind of like a treasure hunt. Yeah, I have fun doing those questions. Make sure you folks put your own requests down in the comments as well. We'll see what I can do for you. All right, finally, we've got a question from Zombar Donko. Of course that's your name. I don't know what that means. Says, David, I'd like to see your suggestions regarding knife multi-tool combos for 3 different scenarios: work, construction, EDC as in office or city environment, and outdoors/bushcrafting. All right, I'm all about this because I am a multi-tool / main blade person. I typically, when I head anywhere, I always think about what multi-tool and what blade I'm taking. I like to pair the two there because a multi-tool is too useful not to have around, but they're not always the best blade steel or the most ergonomic, so that's where the other one comes in. But then you've got at least 2 blades on you when you need it. But what I'm going to do here, because there's so many combos you could do, so many good combos that are out there, it's going to be hard to definitively say. So what I'm going to do is actually show you stuff from my EDC rotation, stuff that I would pick out of my collection if I were needing something for these environments. These are truly my knives from my collection. So I'm going to start with your first one, work construction environment. Well, for me, it's my trusty Leatherman Wave. I have had this for a long time. I couldn't even tell you. Love it. It's got a bunch of different blades. You've got your interchangeable bits, which are nice. In fact, even in a non-work environment, this lives in my my pack every day that I come to work with and go everywhere. And I've got the extra bit kits. I've got the bit extender as well. It's phenomenal. I've actually got some of the charges with the upgraded blade steel, but the reason I still use the Wave more than any other, I actually put those charges in a few different glove boxes and stuff, but I love this Wave because it's nice and broken in. I can flip it open, which is hard to do until they're broken in. I just love it. It's a classic. Now, as far as the folder goes, I'm kind of using the same criteria we talked about in the first question, where I want a frame lock with washers and an open back and a sheep's foot or Wharncliffe style blade. And I actually only have one in my collection that meets all those criteria. My Sebenza 21 with micarta inlays and the Insingo blade. Gotta love it. And I'm not worried about babying this knife either. As you can see, it's seen quite a lot of miles, and it's just a hard, tough, heavy working knife. S35 VN blade steel. It's funny, this is kind of an expensive combo. These I think were about $550 before they made the transition to the new Sebenzas, and about $100 for the Leatherman, but it's just gonna work. All right, now for the EDC environments, I'm gonna start with office, which I'm gonna take as your gentleman's option. For my multi-tool in those scenarios, I always go towards my Victorinox Swiss Army Cadet. These are pretty affordable. They're about $35, but they look like $1,000,000. I mean, check out the Alox aluminum on that. And I do like to go for just the plain satin A-locks on this, even though they do have some extra colors, because it looks kind of like jewelry almost. And it's nice and thin, only 2 layers thick. You've got your main blade. Importantly, for me, I always like to have a nail file on hand, as well as your bottle opener and your can opener. Just the bare essentials right there. And I'll pair that with one of 2 blades typically. Either I do have a small Sebenza with wood inlays that I like, but right now I'm gonna show you this Ziba MS3. I kind of alternate between the 2. Great little knife here. We've got a few of these in stock right now with higher end Damasteel blades. They're about $465. But MKM, Italian company, just released a production version, and the one that's pretty much identical to this comes in at about $200, and that's an M390 blade. This one is one of Ziba's originals, and it's got a Nitro V blade, and I just love this little knife. Nice thin blade, under 3 inches, and it disappears completely into the handle except for that flipper tab when you have it closed up. And then I really like to do that nice little lighter flick. It's just a classy looking blade. It's not too offensive looking if you take it out in a higher end environment, and it'll go with just about any type of environment, because it is just simple titanium, some blue accents. It's gonna fit in very nicely. Now, as for more generic city EDC, you guys are probably tired of me telling you about my favorite Victorinox Swiss Army, my EvoGrip S18. It's the one I keep on my belt. I've got a little pouch for it. I carry this every single day. Well, that I don't need one of these other combos for. It's a great selection of tools. I prefer to have the screwdriver on the back here rather than the corkscrew, because I've never opened a bottle of wine with a Swiss Army knife. I will say, I wish that they still, a number of years ago, before Victorinox consolidated the Wenger brand, they also made the S16, and that omitted the saw that's on this S18. And that would actually be perfect for my EDC. The only reason I upgraded to the 18 is because it has the standard toothpick and tweezers, and I wanted to add an aftermarket fire starter to it, which the old Wenger slots weren't fitted for those. Otherwise, I'd be carrying my old S16. Now for me, my city consideration may be a little bit different from some of you other folks out there, but I live, we're not too far away from Washington, DC, where we are here, and they've got a 3-inch limit. So for me, my 3-inch blade for the city that I reach for is my Para 3. They started about 143 or thereabouts for G10 versions, or there's even lighter weight versions that have a deep carry pocket clip, which might be important for a city scenario. Those are under 100, but this one right here is one of the sprint runs from this year with S45 VN and this real cool milled G10 pattern. But what I like about this knife is that blade is under 3 inches, but it doesn't feel like a small knife. Because of the way this handle is done, you've still got a nice, full, solid grip. You don't feel like you're giving anything up to have that shorter blade length. I mean, just put it right there next to that Ziba. You can see right there, they're roughly the same amount of edge, but one of those is certainly capable of doing a lot more work. Now, if I want to go with something that's a little more low profile, like I said, you might want to check out the lightweight Para 3s with the deep carry pocket clip. But if I want lighter weight or more surreptitious carry, because a fair bit does stick up above the pocket on that Para 3, I reach for my Benchmade bug out. And probably these 2 knives are the ones that I carry most of the time nowadays. I usually swap between these 2 primarily, and then a few others sprinkled in. And of course, you can go with the mini bug out if you need a sub 3-inch blade, but you've got that deep carry pocket clip there. And this one right here, KnifeCenter exclusive battle wash, unfortunately, no longer available, but you can get the blue one because that's very non-threatening as well. So another good option for a city knife. Now, as far as outdoor uses, camping, bushcrafting, what have you, I always reach for my Victorinox Outrider. It's my favorite full-size or big-size Swiss Army knife. It's got the single main blade here, nice and long. I actually prefer these non-one-hand opening versions. I don't really like the hump so much like you see on the Trekker. I've got one of the old side lock versions, although they have switched now to the liner lock that you have seen on that Trekker model. But what's nice about the Outrider is it adds a couple of tools. It's got a nice pair of scissors, which I love. I wish the Cadet came with a pair of scissors, but I love having that pair of scissors. And you got a small Phillips head screwdriver as well. But the other important difference is, I know I mentioned I didn't like the corkscrew on my Evo grip, but that's for EDC. When camping, I love having this on hand. Again, not for wine. I've never ever used it to open wine, but there's no super sharp edges on here. The point is a little rounded over. I love this thing for untying knots and stuff like paracord, especially with my big fingers. Paracord can get cinched down really tight, and there's no way I'm ever untying it with my fingers without cutting through it. And the corkscrew is a really nice way to get in there and start loosening up some knots. Really cool knife. These are about 60 bucks these days. And then I pair that with a fixed blade. Folder for me in outdoors is always a backup. My main blade is always going to be a fixed blade, and for me, it's my Nordsmith Canteen knife, which is my own design. This is my my side project that actually started before my KnifeCenter days, and I still am keeping it going. Even though these are out of stock at the moment, even I don't have any left. But there's some new ones coming out real soon, so keep paying attention. But basically, this is my primary belt knife in the outdoors because it can pull off all my camp knife needs, but it can also pull off some kitchen knife stuff or camp cooking, which honestly, a lot of us out there, we like to think about, survival and bushcrafting and making traps and all these other sorts of things. We're probably using a knife more for food prep than anything else. So this is gonna do it all. You got a nice 5.5-inch blade. This is an AEBL version right here, so it's a nice and tough stainless for outdoors use. You've got enough of a sweep to the edge combined with the upturn in the handle here where you can do some rocking cuts on a cutting board. Got nice thumb scallops there for that pinch grip. And then you can choke back, brings that edge down a little bit, and you can do some light chopping with it as well. But it still works perfectly for carving, that sort of thing. You've got a centerline point, you can do drilling. It's everything you want, certainly everything I wanted, and it's certainly lived up and done everything I needed it to do in the outdoors. These are made in America. I partner with LT Wright Knives to build these, so if you're familiar with their quality, you know these are built to last. All right, that is it for the questions today. Make sure to let me know what you thought of my answers, and make sure to put your own questions down there in the comments for a chance to get it featured in a future Knife AQ video. Now in the meantime, if you want to get your hands on any of these knives, or at least the current equivalents of these knives, we will leave links in the description to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program while you're there, because you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next knife if you're going to buy one of these knives anyway. I'm David C. Anderson from the KnifeCenter signing off. Don't forget to leave your questions down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. See you next time.